Bonjour.
Enchanté, Anthony.
Enchanté.
Allô, enchanté.
Good afternoon, delegates. Each team has 18 minutes to present its case to the judges. I will show a card for the last 10, 5, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds of the presentation. During the last 10 seconds of the presentation, I'll use both hands to indicate the number. The team that has not finished its presentation after 18 minutes will be stopped in order to move on to the question period. The timer will also beep to indicate the time at the end of the presentation. The question period of up to 5 minutes is allotted for the jury. Participants' presentations must last a minimum of 12 minutes. There is a penalty for 1 point. The team whose presentation is less than 10 minutes will be disqualified and will obtain a score.
Moi-même, alpiniste, j'ai tout de suite trouvé des parallèles entre la pratique de la montagne et la succession entrepreneuriale dans l'essai électronique. En partant de l'esprit de cordée, qui est vraiment au cœur de la montagne, jusqu'à l'ascension progressive d'un sommet, c'est avec plaisir que moi, Anthony, et mes collègues Mathéo et Maya allons vous proposer un nouveau sommet pour ABC électronique. Le reste de la présentation se déroulera en anglais, mais on peut répondre aux questions dans la langue de votre choix. So quickly, here's an itinerary of how we will ascend our new summit. And first, we want to clearly establish what is the situation for ABC Electronics. Well, we know that you're a family-owned electronic distributor that relies mainly on a conservative approach to business, on mutual respect among all stakeholders, and finally, evolving in a family and friendly atmosphere. Our mission today is to provide to you an end-to-end succession plan that takes into account the founder's confidence in their children's capabilities, fostering the buy-in of key employees, and finally, to preserve Mr. Tremblay's valuable relationships. How will we get there? We'll start by reaching the base camp by accomplishing an organizational restructuring, followed by an acclimatization, offering progressive exit for the founders, finally reaching the summit with an employee incentive plan, and we will conservatively go down this mountain by supporting change with training and mentoring. All of this while keeping in mind transparency, employee retention, and maintaining harmony within the family.
Right, thank you, Anthony. So now we're going to look at the current situation through an organizational chart. In this chart, we can identify 3 main issues that we want to tackle. First of all is the role of Caroline Kani, that is currently Director of Administration, as well as HR. However, we believe that through this transition, it's going to be crucial to have an external HR manager to ensure a smooth transition and transparency among all the teams. Second of all, we see that as Alain has some great technical skills, he is one of the pillars of this company. However, he has some issues when it comes to communication, and so we want to limit the people that he actually has to talk to one-on-one in order to, once again, have communication flow more easily. Third of all, we can see 5 teams directly under Yves, and this is a very horizontal structure, and while it works right now, there are a lot of informal communication that goes on in the company, and we'd like to restructure a little bit the teams to make the decision making more centralized, to give communication more effectively. We do see, however, 2 main opportunities with Catherine as well as Maxime to increase responsibilities and to go on and take that. So we propose a 3-phase transition. The first phase is organizational change, and then it would be founder's transition and finishing off with the new structure implementation. Throughout this whole transition, we have 3 main considerations that we want to keep in mind. The stability of operations, as well as employee retention and the really good culture of the company, as well as one of the core pillars of our mandate, which is maintaining harmony within the family. So we're going to start off at base camp. This is the most accessible, yet the steepest leap in our ascent in this journey. So we're going to start with the organizational change. We have 3 main components to this change. First one being increasing Catherine and Maxime's responsibility. We do believe that both these people have really good qualities and skills that will bring them to take on leadership in the company further on. We do see Catherine as the ideal candidate for the COO. that, she has the strongest discipline as well as relationship skills, which are crucial when you are managing a company. But not only this, but her visions also align with the ones of her parents. One of the main concerns of the parents was really to keep the company going in the trajectory that it's already going and not necessarily bring it to different operations, really to keep that stable. So, however, she is new to the firm and she does lack that expertise. She's only been there for 3 months, so maybe she doesn't have that credibility with employees, which is why to bring her to that goal of being CEO, we want, first of all, a mentorship program with her, as well as weekly shadowing in different departments to really integrate all the teams and see the business on every level. Then we have Maxim, who is also a great asset to this company. He has a lot of experience and a passion for the sales and more the external growth, so we would see him as the new chief sales officer. To get to this point, we would once again have those mentorship programs to learn a bit about the other components as well as increase his responsibility to support his system. He's been there for a longer time, he can give her knowledge and some expertise, as well as take on and progressively manage Eve's partner relationships, which are once again one of the core elements. While we take on this new generation of leaders, we do believe they need a great mentor, and who better to do this than their mother that would act as a consultant. She's the one that has the most knowledge with the business. She has that expertise that she can give to the future generation in a part-time involvement so she can go towards retirement. So we can see on the organizational chart what this would look like. We have Carole on the external there as a consultant, and then we have both the new leaders, Karine and Maxim, with additional teams under their responsibility, and I'll get to that in just a second. So the second component would be streamlining those decision-making layers. Right now, the structure is very horizontal. There's a lot of informal communication, and while we believe that a horizontal structure is great because it has open and free-flowing communication, as well as a lot of cross-functionality between the teams, we like the centralized aspect of a vertical structure, especially when it comes to that transition to the next 5 years. So our approach would be maintaining that horizontal structure they have, but implement a more centralized decision-making structure with more managers on the top taking decisions while always taking into account what the employees really think and encouraging cross-functionality between the teams to retain that company culture. So on the charts, we see that those 5 teams that were previously under Eve have been reestablished under different people. Alain will have delivery, research, and development, as well as maintenance, so we want to really limit the amount of people that we have. But the product team leader, we assume, already had some great leadership skills managing the product team, which is the largest team on the planet. As for inputs, we put it as a cross-functional team between Maxim and Alain, as it could benefit from both of their expertise, and the inputs was previously the procurement and reception parts that we merged together as.
Yeah, so now to finish the last stage of our basic establishing our we believe that hiring as HR two main reasons that we are looking for that having retention on family talent, we understand that this is in terms of who we are looking for. We're looking for someone that has had experience. Someone that was in HR in a small one, someone that really understands the culture. Now, understanding how this is going to roll, again, CHR was going to be more on the external side and really just coming off. But again, what is going to now take the consulting role and really just now that that base camp is established, we're going to actually apply that to this really with a lot of the pushing on help to the in terms of what even got on this role on a little more detailed information after more short term is really just understanding what the responsibilities will be in the medium term as they slowly understand a lot more the action. It's going to now start taking action on or now going to slowly step back and move up on with very big you're in a situation on this medium both Maxime and Camille
We understand that we work with a lot of companies that have our we want to support both the transition but the transition. Both even get hard, we're going to try to and being able to not worry about pain can really become now in terms of again this organization. Here we have both Eve and Caroline as a consultant. Both of them are going to be able to help MIC. Now on the terms of the last third phase, we're going to look at this new structure. Now looking at an organization like here, Eve and Caroline, they are still on the advisory side just in case. But role MIC in this account, full CS. That with those considerations, we focus more on Japanese. His mentorship program is going to start as soon as possible. We want to make sure that we can actually be able to implement that shadowing program. Allowing her to get experience with all the different departments. We understand how the company runs. We want to push this experience as fast as we can. 2 to 3 years in after this mentorship, have more of a recap to see how actually explore the other. And 2 years into that, beginning 2028 is looking more at the actual recapping on how our actual Shadley has been. She has well integrated in all the different teams. She has all of them function. That's what her actually working. We understand some cases might take more time, some of the work. So this implementation is still quite flexible. 5 years. One of the key dates that we were looking for is that actually take this. In terms of this implementation, the bottom side reflects a lot more in the analysis. For them, still a full 5 years. We really want to implement that new structure in 2028 for both of us. Now, in terms of some key considerations, what we're actually looking for that the business I learned all three I learned Japanese and my team leaders position. All three of them will go through this training and be able to actually take on this business to the next step. In terms of also employee retention, we're going to go this on the last. But again, that was now we're going to pass it on to you.
Thank you, Matteo. Indeed, the last summit push is probably the most important, yet the hardest to put into practice. And that is the case of transparency here, where we want that everyone involved in this transition is fully aware of first the current situation, then where the company is going. So why is transparency so important? Because it's a pillar for trust, which then opens the door to reduce further conflicts and increases engagement within the whole company's mission. Now, how will you be able to implement transparency? Well, we really recommend that you focus on your existing communication channels. So that could be through informal meetings, town halls, newsletters. So really tailoring this to your existing communication style. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see who should be transparent with who. So the founders have to be transparent with their successors. Leadership has to maintain constant communication with their crew. And finally, the governance has to really establish clear rules and roles to the rest of the shareholders. There are a few areas where we want to prioritize transparency, and the first one is really when establishing the new roles and titles and putting the emphasis on the empowerment aspect of this idea. Then moving on, we use the Cotter's change framework to really push forward this transparent transition, stating the urgency level, restating the core values, and moving forward with common objectives. As to the actions that are taken throughout our implementation plan, well, in an employee incentive plan, transparency is key, as well as for the increased responsibilities of each key leader, and with the idea of hiring outside the family. I was talking about an incentive program. Well, here it is, and the objective of it is to maintain family control through a shared ownership plan. So incentivizing, the idea behind it is that incentivizing key leaders will allow you to have your key leaders fully commit to the company's objective, which in the end will drive retention. And we will do this, we recommend the same phases we presented previously, starting by Carol and Eve retaining 70% of the company in the first phase, and progressively going down to 30% at the third phase, where they will only be external to the company, but still remain the role of advisors. And the dark blue part of the chart is Karin, who will now have a majority stake in the company. Key policies to keep in mind in this phase ownership plan is, first of all, that the buyout is funding in priority by retained earnings, that Carol remains, keeps her 2-for-1 voting control when she will get into the CEO position. And finally, you can see a constant 5% stock reserve for future hires or expansion that we assume that will happen in the future. Now, the summit is not the final step of an ascent. The descent is also as important. So as Carol and Eve slowly exit the company, they have to make sure that all the key leaders to whom they delegate the rest of the company are stable on their feet and ready to carry on the legacy. That is why we want to support all this change through mentorship and skills development, focusing first on strengthening existing strengths and bridging the gap in weaker areas. Starting with Karine, she will be mentored by Carol, Yves, and Alain for all different aspects. The first one, she really needs to build her credibility and her influence. That could be supported by shadowing her father, Yves, who has already the CEO position. And then in terms of market and operational understanding, which is key when taking on a CEO position, well, she will be able to achieve this by shadowing Alain. And finally, she will strengthen her relationship management, through her new position that I'll remind is taking care of the admin side of the company. Moving on to Alain, he will be shadowing Yves mostly for his new position of COO, and his main focus is to drive effective communication internally and externally. And finally, our externally hired CHRO, who will now join the company, has to really understand and match the warm culture of ABC Electronics, and to understand the family history and dynamics. Just to summarize, we went through the base camp by restructuring your organization, progressively allow the founders to exit the company by acclimatizing to new steps. Then we reached the summits by implementing an employee incentive plan, and take on a conservative descent by supporting all these changes with mentorship and skills development. And we achieve this all by keeping in mind a conservative approach to business, mutual respect among all stakeholders, and keeping a family and a friendly and warm atmosphere within ABC Electronics. So we're confident that our strategy will allow you to successfully complete your succession plan over the next 5 years as a team, one step at a time. Merci de votre écoute. Nous sommes ouverts à recevoir vos questions.
Over, you have 5-minute questions.
Je peux poser mes questions en français? Ça me fait parfait. Ma question, en fait, c'est à savoir comment est-ce que vous êtes arrivé à la conclusion de mettre Karine dans le rôle de CEO? Et est-ce que vous avez considéré Maxime dans cette réflexion-là au niveau des liens familiaux?
Oui, c'est sûr qu'on a vraiment regardé à tous les enfants de la famille pour prendre le rôle de CEO. Au final, c'est revenu, on a regardé cette tableau-là et on a vu vraiment que Karine avait des forces vraiment dans la discipline and relationships, qui, nous, on pense que c'est deux skills les plus importants à avoir comme CEO parce que ça va être vraiment beaucoup de relationship managing, désolée. Donc c'est ça, et la seule affaire, c'est qu'évidemment, elle est vraiment nouvelle à la compagnie, et donc c'est pour ça qu'on a ce programme de 5 mois pour l'amener à de la compagnie. Maxime, c'est sûr que lui aussi, c'était vraiment un candidat potentiel pour nous. Il a vraiment plus d'expertise, ça fait 8 ans qu'il a fait le business development. Par contre, on voit que ses visions alignaient plus avec un external growth expansion, et nous, on pense que les parents, ils seraient plus confortables à avoir quelqu'un comme Karine, qui est plus conservateur.
Ben, je peux te faire un petit peu Non, c'est ça. Karine est là depuis 3 mois, Maxime est là depuis une petite année. Est-ce que vous avez peur que ça fasse des divisions dans la famille?
Ouais, mais pour nous, en fait, ça aussi, c'était vraiment important que Maxime, il sent que lui aussi, il va avoir plus de responsabilités. C'est pour ça qu'on l'a mis Chief Sales Officer. Donc, vraiment, il va s'occuper de tout ce qui est business development, tout ce qui est sales marketing. Donc, on a racheté des équipes en dessous de lui. Il va savoir que oui, sa sœur, elle va monter, mais lui, puis il va vraiment il va accompagner sa sœur aussi là-dedans. Parce que c'est sûr qu'elle va avoir besoin.
C'est mieux, là, mais est-ce que vous avez considéré, réfléchi à Alexandre dans cette démarche?
Yes. So I'm gonna answer this question in English, but what we're looking at has actually never worked. We believe that with his current tax company, we believe that he's still in his perfect fit.
À propos de Alain, est-ce que vous avez prévu quelque chose au niveau de son développement individuel?
Oui, c'est une excellente question. D'après Alain, pour son développement individuel en termes de compétences, donc, lui, il a vraiment le côté opérationnel à cœur. C'est vraiment sa grande force, surtout depuis ça fait une quinzaine d'années qu'il est dans l'entreprise. Donc, en termes de compétences de l'industrie, on lui fait vraiment confiance à ce niveau-là. Les compétences plus de management, c'est là où, comme il reprend des équipes, en fait, que Yves avait au départ, donc des équipes, des petites équipes dans le grand nombre, mais là, ça va être important que. Un slide pour avoir un petit visuel. Alain, justement, donc, va beaucoup être mentoré par Yves, qui pourra lui transmettre informellement, c'est un peu dans l'esprit de la culture de l'ABC, donc informellement, les relations existantes avec les différentes parties prenantes, et aussi des skills plus de management. On n'a pas d'informations sur les tests psychométriques de Yves, mais ça aurait pu être intéressant de comparer justement quelle force il peut transmettre à Alain qui va prendre une partie de sa vie.
Parfait. Donc, ça va plus se passer avec Yves à ce niveau-là. Super. Super. Puis, au niveau du programme de mentorat avec Carole, question pour vous parce que j'ai vu dans une de vos diapositives qu'on parlait de 10 à 15 heures environ de mentorat. Donc, à partir de quel moment est-ce que vous comptez mettre en œuvre le 10 à 15 heures de mentorat? Puis, comment est-ce que les responsabilités actuelles de Carole vont être prises en charge pendant ce 10 à 15 heures?
Ouais, donc, dans le fond, si on retourne sur si on retourne sur voilà, juste là, on voit que quand Carole, elle va être une consultante externe, on a Karine qui monte comme Director of Administration. Elle garde son Chief Accounting, mais elle va rajouter le Director of Admin. Mais on a enlevé, c'est ça, la partie HR pour le manager externe, HR externe qui ont pensé vraiment pour la transition. Et donc, dès que Karine va prendre son rôle de on pense que Carole va pouvoir être consultante. Ça va la laisser aussi la chance de ralentir un peu. Là, elle travaille beaucoup, puis de se diriger vers la retraite tout en gardant cette communication avec sa famille pour vraiment.
Merci. Un grand merci à vous.
Merci.
Merci.
Merci. Merci. Bonne fin de journée.